is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Border War podcast here on the Kansas City Sports Network. We are presented by Emprise Bank. My name is Jarrett Sutton. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Jeff Hawkins. Jeff, how we doing? It's great having league play back, man. It's a lot to cover here with Mizzou as they start SEC play 2 games down, but just fun having the conference season back in college basketball. So many good games over the last few days.
Yeah, you know, anytime we can get it here on the pod, talk some basketball, especially as it progresses, like we talked about league play, conference play. One of my favorite parts is, that league play. I mean, I guess I can't put it over March Madness, but conference play is very fun watching me just because these teams, they know so much about each other. The scout report just kind of gets transferred from last year. They kick out a couple seniors, add some freshmen in, maybe add a couple more notes to it. Plays, maybe they might catch a couple more, but they kind of know what you're doing. So those games are fun because both teams kind of know what each other's doing. The players are well prepared for that. And when the games are tight, guys are playing at a high level.
It's the build-up, too. I mean, you go from non-conference play, league play. I feel like it's a new energy and excitement. And then, obviously, the NCAA tournament and the postseason is a different deal. But I do get excited for league play. I like the challenges, too, to kind of break up the league play. We'll talk about that, down the road. But just fun to have, competitive SEC basketball, back in full swing for Mizzou. Unfortunately, 2 losses to touch on for the Tigers. We're going to start with the Georgia game. Again, a good game, back and forth. Georgia ends up winning at 75-68. Georgia got out to a pretty serious lead in the first half, and you thought, man, they're going to wipe Mizzou off the floor. And then Mizzou all of a sudden goes on a big-time run to close the half. They get back into the game, and you think, man, this is kind of how Mizzou's been when they've won some games. You go back to, the Minnesota game that they won on the road. That was a big comeback. Pitt was a comeback. Those type of games, I feel like, are what Mizzou's been doing, especially in non-conference play. But unfortunately, they fall short. And some things to take away. Sean East, again, we talk about him, I feel like, every podcast. He continues to be so productive. Had 18 in that game. Was really, really effective, just kind of in the mid-range. Didn't hit any threes. Everything was kind of around the rim. The emergence of Tamar Bates is really what I kind of want to hit on. They did get Noah Carter to play a little bit better. Noah's been in a little bit of a slump. But really, Tamar Bates and Aidan Shaw. And we talked about him, Jeff. I mean, these are Kansas City kids.
Yeah.
And both these guys, to start league play, if there's a positive for me, it's Tamar Bates and Aidan Shaw.
Yeah.
Because those guys are playing aggressively. I think outside of Sean, I think they're the 2 most reliable players right now for Mizzou, where you know what you're going to get from them. They're 2 of the better athletes Mizzou has. They're playing both ends of the floor. Let's start with Tamar. The efficiency, he plays with so much fire. And so, he's a totally different. I watched him so much at Indiana, and, it just felt like he was kind of trying to not make a mistake. And I just feel a totally different type of player now. And I hope he has a great league season. He deserves this just because he didn't really have, what he wanted out of his experience in Indiana. Not to say it was a bad experience, but just didn't really work out how he wanted it to. And boy, he's really kind of hit the ground running really over the last, I would say, 2-3 weeks of being one of Mizzou's best players.
And you mentioned Tamar, and we can talk the Kansas City guys for sure. But Tamar, you know what? Just looking at Tamar, you talk about that fire, that's how he's always played. When you watch him, it's almost like he's ready to fight. But
no question. He's intense, super intense.
But he's ready to fight, but he's not ready to fight. It's super intense. He's locked in, and he's gonna do everything for his team. And I love what he brings on the defensive end, what he brings energy-wise. And I've always loved his offensive game. And, I think, when he was at Indiana, like you mentioned, he just wasn't able to get that right feel, that right fit, see it the way he really wanted to see it. And, him being at Mizzou a little bit closer to home, I think being in Big 12 play, which is also a tough conference, him embracing, not Big 12 play, I'm so sorry. See what I'm saying? Which is a great conference. I mean, I think he's locking all of that stuff in, and I think offensively it's really starting to shine in his production. And I'm very proud to see him really start to get things turned around in conference play.
Yeah, I mean his shooting,
Yeah.
like he's got such a belief in his shot again. Because when we called some of his games for SEC Plus at the beginning of the year, he was shooting the ball 3 or 4 times, and he was pretty passive. And you think, man, this guy's got to really turn it on, because he's got the opportunity to do it, and now it's just kind of keeps building and building and building. He had a great game against Seton Hall in Kansas City. I felt like that kind of kicked it off for him, where, I mean, he was excellent in that game, and Mizzou got beat, but he was the best player on the floor for Mizzou, really, I thought, the entire day on both ends of the floor. And I think it touches on like his intensity, how hard he plays, where, you know, he's not like overthinking. He's just so locked into the next play. You know, he never hangs his head. Like, he plays with relentless motor. He's tough on the glass. He's a versatile defender. Like, he's switching everywhere. And in terms of guarding. So I think he's really just helping himself, just showing what we knew he could be coming out of high school when he was at IMG. I mean, he was a very heavily recruited player. And there was a lot of untapped potential with him. And it's just fun to see a player like find themselves and knowing that it's been very much a struggle. But he was great. The Georgia game, he goes for 15 points. He was 6-11 from the field and hit a 3. He was 1 of 3. And then he turns around in the Kentucky game and goes for 18 points, 6-12 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3. So his production, I mean, it speaks for itself. Central Arkansas, right before league play, had a really good game. So he's hitting kind of his stride, and the confidence and the belief in himself. And I think Dennis Gates is definitely, you know, behind the ear there of like, hey, when you step on the floor, you're a great player. Go be a great player. And that's kind of what you're seeing from him. The other guy's Aidan Shaw. Man, am I happy for Aidan. Like, first of all, he's just such an amazing kid. Like, he's so easy to talk to, and he's somebody you pull for, very soft-spoken, great family. And, like, I know how hard he works. Like, he definitely works. Like, he wants to be good. And it's been a little bit of a slow I think he's finally bought in to playing to his strengths and just not trying to be anybody else but himself. And I think that's something that maybe was in the back of his mind as a freshman. He's such a great athlete, but, you know, I got to showcase my handle. I got to showcase my jump shot. Man, when he just plays hard and plays to his athleticism, he's everywhere.
Yeah,
you know, it's deflections, it's dunks, it's steals, it's switching 1 through 5. He's making passes now within the offense. Really happy for him. He had 14 and 6 in the Georgia game and went 7 of 8 from the field. And some of his dunks were unbelievable. I mean, he's a pogo stick. It's just like you just throw the ball up. He's hanging in the air, double clutching. I mean, his finishing, and just his range, like his catch radius too. Like, you put the ball anywhere, he can just go get it. And he's just a freaky athlete. But I'm just happy that he's impacting the game now like we knew Aidan Shaw could. And he started to do it more consistently over the last couple games.
Yeah, and, you know, again, another Kansas City kid, proud of. You know,
it's proud. It's a proud moment for us, man.
Those
for the Kansas City guys.
Yeah, you know, man, those guys bring great pride to me. And, you know, seeing those guys excel and see where they were at when, you know, we were talking, hey, Tamar, we like to see him give more production. Hey, Aidan, we like to see him give more production. We like to see Aidan hit the boards more. And, you know, these last 3 games, he's attacked the boards a lot more than he has. And I think it's just showing, you know, when he's aggressive on the rebound, like you said, when he's aggressive, hitting the boards, I think that just transcends his game to put him in aggressive mode for the entire game. And he's just so locked in right now. He's so versatile. He's so long. I mean, when that ball comes off the rim, you better watch out. But just Aidan's just so versatile, and I think he gives the Tigers a best chance to win when he's locked in, playing around the rim the way he does, getting out, running, playing loose. And I think that's what it really is. But for him and Tamar, they're both playing loose. They're not thinking. And when guys aren't thinking and just going, you know, off of their reaction time, it's fun to watch when they get back in those modes.
Yeah, it's letting the game come to you, not trying to go get the game. I just think that's such a great line. And you can see with players sometimes when they put pressure on themselves and I got to go do this and I got to go do that. And it's like, well, hey, maybe you don't need to go do that. Maybe you got something that maybe some of these other guys don't have, and that is your athletic ability, your size.
Yeah.
And you can impact a game just by doing a lot of different things. But the motor,
yeah,
how hard he's playing and competing, to your point, I don't think he's overthinking anymore. I think he's just going and confident. And if I do these three things, I'm going to stay on the floor and be productive. So we'll take a quick break. But before we do, we did want to tell you about Home Field Apparel. Home Field is committed to creating incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. Home Field has a growing collection of over 150 plus colleges to choose from, including your favorite team's unique logos, mascots, and iconic moments to create thoughtfully designed apparel. Shop your latest team's apparel. Head to homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code KCSN23 for 15% off your first order.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Welcome back to the Border War podcast here on the Kansas City Sports Network. We're presented by Emprise Bank. Jeff, the lighting looks a little bit better. It looks like we got we might have had a technical difficulty, but we're good. We're playing through it. We're playing next play.
That's hilarious.
Next play. Let's get to it. We got to talk about Kentucky. Mizzou goes to Kentucky in Lexington. Kind of felt like this was the Kansas game where you look up and Mizzou's just like hanging around, and it's 8. It's a 6-point deficit. They're down 13. You're like, man, Kentucky's going to put this to 25 any minute. And then Mizzou comes back and makes it 6 again. And it felt like Mizzou couldn't get over the hump, but they did keep it close on the road. And again, you look at the box score. Tamar Bates was very good in this game, but Noah Carter. We kind of mentioned him. Sean East was good as he always has been with 19, but Noah with 20 hit 3 threes. He'd been struggling, and Mizzou needs him to have any sort of chance in games. They need that type of player to step up in terms of making shots at the small ball 4-5. If you play small, and then his ability to finish around the rim, he just really couldn't get anything going. So it's good to see him kind of break out of that, have a 20-point game on the road. So you think, especially at Kentucky, it's always a good thing when you can find some consistency and some production. But Kentucky's good. That they got so much talent over there, so much speed, athleticism, size. It's not a good matchup for Mizzou at all, and they hung close there for much of the game. Big picture in the game, really, to me, is Mizzou. First half shot the ball really well. We're kind of back and forth there the first 10 minutes of the game. They're only down 5 at the break. Really shot the ball well. They hit 6 threes and kind of paced themselves. Probably put Kentucky on the line too much. Probably fouled a little too much. But they're in the game. In the second half, they go ice cold from 3, specifically 2 of 15 from 3. Didn't really shoot the ball that well, and that allows Kentucky to kind of go on a run. And they never looked back. Points in the paint. Mizzou was competitive, but really it's the points off turnovers. Kentucky 16-4. And points off turnovers, especially on the road. Missouri only turned the ball over 11 times, but a lot of those turnovers are live ball turnovers that end up in buckets on the other end. And it felt like Kentucky's turnovers, Missouri really couldn't capitalize on. And that's just kind of how it goes. A lot of live ball turnovers, losing the ball around the mid-stripe, trying to do too much, making some bad passes that led to transition breaks. And you just can't do that on a team like Kentucky with that much speed and that much athleticism.
I think you said it. I'm a big turnover rebound guy. When it comes to turnovers, it's those points off of turnovers. I think those are just extra points. And I know, they're looking back at like, wow, man, if we could get even half of those points back from those points off of turnovers, just give us 8 back. What does that do with our confidence? What does that do with the momentum of the game? What does that do? Because one of the things that I was really impressed with was, at one point in time, I didn't know if it was going to get out of control. And the way Missouri just kept fighting, they kept fighting until it got out of control. I thought that was pretty cool because this is a team that they're so resilient. And it's, to me, I think it's so many positives they can look out of. The way they fought. They had some things, those points off of turnovers hurt, missing some shots. But the production that right now that you're getting from Noah Carter and Tamar Bates, I think that is something that you can build upon. And again, if you're going to take a loss early in the season, this is the best time to do it. And you were on the road at Kentucky, number 6 team in the nation. Again, I think you said it best, Jarrett. I think it did remind me of the KU type game.
Yeah.
You're playing a top team and you're right there. And then obviously when the game kind of gets out of hand towards the end, but in the thick of it, when the game really mattered most, it was a tight game. They were competing. They had Kentucky and Calipari thinking on the other end, as well as their fans. And at one point in time, you thought they might just turn the corner. So I think they're right there right now. They got some guys like we talked about playing well with Tamar Bates. Noah Carter starting to fill himself out. So, we know what you're going to get out of Sean East. But when these other guys, when they all put it together, and if they can continue to consistently put it together, watch out.
Yeah. I think when I look at this team too, I mean, they were hammered on the glass. There was 42-27 discrepancy on the glass, which doesn't bode well. They did keep it close in terms of points in the paint.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at this team, and I kind of draw the comparison to last year's game, like 75 has always been the magic number in terms of offense, in terms of scoring. They've given up a lot of points in some of these losses. They give up 90 to Kentucky. Now, look, Kentucky's very talented, and they can score it. It's not really a surprise to see Kentucky put up 90, but this is starting to become a trend. And what they're, what to me they're missing is last year they had Demoy Hodge, who led the SEC in steals. They were able to force more turnovers, led to transition. It's why they were able to get back in game. They could shoot teams out of games because they could get steals and live ball turnovers. You just touched on turnovers, and look, they were killed on the glass so much last year too.
Yeah.
Defensive end, so much is made of offense and looking at the box score and who's playing well, but they're really not getting stops, and they struggle to put consecutive stops. They call them kills, where kind of bumps that spike where you get three
in a row, baby.
They're trying to do that. It just feels like they get away from some of those concepts defensively. And look, they have some limitations. There's no question. When you're going up against a team like Kentucky that's just got length and size and speed and quickness, it's one of those questions where you don't have the horses. That's where I like the character of the team to just hang. They don't quit, and I appreciate that about them. They're not going to quit. They're going to keep playing. They definitely have a culture there where I think Sean East deserves a ton of credit. Every time I see Sean East play, he's the best player on the floor for Missouri pretty much consistently night in and night out, and he's one of the smallest players on the roster. But how he interacts with guys, in dead ball situations, in huddles, bad plays, he's always like positive. And I appreciate that. You have to have that type of leadership, especially with where the team sits right now. Mm-hmm. You're right at the start of league play. You're 0-2 to start league play. Like, that can be really difficult. And you and I, luckily, didn't have to experience that a ton in our playing days. But to think about going through some of those losses and build it, how do you find a win? How do you continue to prepare and go to practice and work and stay together? Don't lose the locker room. Like, it's early January, but this team's gotta stay together, and I think that's probably the message right now. And I still think the young players, right, the Jordan Butlers, the Anthony Robinsons, those guys really do need to play. They need to play a good amount of time if they can. Trent Pierce, very much a player that needs to get time. These are 3 freshmen that are really talented. That I think are their minutes kind of fluctuate in terms of teachable moments, games where they might struggle. There's a lot of teachable moments, but these guys need to get some of that experience, because I think they're guys who circle in for the future too, and hopefully they can continue to get that experience.
Yeah, and I think over time, again, I know Coach Gates is still, I think, trying to figure out who's going to get those other minutes. And I think besides what the production right now of the Kansas City duo Bates and Shaw are doing right now. So there are some other guys that have opportunity to step up. But I think with this team, man, overall, they're right there. You know, like you mentioned, you know, how do they stay motivated? 0-2. You know, you just hope that, you know, they think, man, we're right there. Like, we're right there. Don't worry about being 0-2. Just worry about knowing that we're developing in the right direction. And at any point in time, the lid's gonna pop off and it's gonna overflow. So just know, I think they're right there. I mean, you can tell again when they go into these hostile environments and they still compete. They're right there. They just need to stay locked in and continue to trust in Coach Gates, and clean up some little things, you know. But I think they're going to be right there. I truly believe they're going to be right there.
Yeah, you look at where the SEC sits too. I mean, Auburn, really good team. They're 2-0 in league play. Kentucky and Georgia, they're 2-3 right now in the league, and that's Missouri's first two, you know, matchups in SEC play. Now they face South Carolina at home on Saturday, 2:30 tip. It's their first home game in league play. And South Carolina is very good. They're 13-2. So doesn't get easy in league play, as you know. And this team's going to have to find a way to continue. And this is going to be a great, you know, I think for Coach Gates, different team than last year. Yeah, that was such a fun team last year. And there are some returners from that team. There's some young players. There's some transfers. Obviously, the Caleb Grill situation with the injury has been a kind of a bummer because he was going to be a huge part of this group. Kind of similar to what we're seeing from Tamar playing so well. That's really what this staff envisioned from Caleb Grill. So losing him is a piece of this, but this is what coaches, you know, just when it's going great and you're winning, it's great. But when you're losing and you're struggling, how do you find ways to kind of get your team in the best position to hopefully win a game? And that's what Coach Gates is going to work through this week and this weekend. Jeff, always good to chat with you, man. League play is alive and well, and it's going to be an exciting run here through SEC play as we get into the heart of this. It's 2 games down and a lot of fun ahead of us here in league play. You betcha. All right, Jeff. We'll talk to you next week.
Have a good one.